Hello everyone, this hour on Verbling, the next in my Getting Results in Business series. We're continuing on in our unit on how to talk about success. We're getting started in just a minute. First, a little bit about me. I'm Jon-Eric, your Verbling teacher for this hour. I'm an American teacher from New York, hanging out in Lisbon, Portugal to bring you this class. Here are 3 quick rules to help you participate. Don't forget to turn off, tune in, and open up. Which means, please turn off your microphone when you're not speaking so we can keep the classroom nice and quiet. Tune in to the new words that you're learning when you are speaking so I can give you feedback. And finally, open up to your classmates. Relax and have fun. We're all here to learn, and this is a safe and respectful place to practice your English. That's a little bit about me. I want to know a little bit about you. I've given you 2 links in the chat window. I'm going to open them right now, and the presentation I'm going to share with you on screen, but if you like, you can download it as well in case you want to see it up close. And there's also in the presentation on the last page, all of our key vocabulary is there, so you can always cheat at any point. Jump to the last page and take a look at some of the key expressions that we should be using actively as we do this. Okay, so I'm opening that right now, and I also want to open our presentation in a PDF so you can see it on screen. Yeah, here we go. I'm going to open that now. I tried to send everyone a homework yesterday, but I wasn't able to do it because there was something wrong with the message service in Verbling, but I think it's fixed now. So I couldn't give you the homework I wanted to give you. I apologize about that. Let me just see if I have it handy. If I do, we might do it as a little introduction if it's short enough. Let me just take a quick look if I have it handy in front of me. If I do, I can share it with you. Give me just a second. One moment. Oh no, it's in the wrong place. Where did I put it? 1 second here. That's not right. I opened the wrong folder. Hold on just a second. Let me go to my Getting Results in Business folder. Talk about success. Homework 3. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you, I'm just going to put this on screen, I think. It's the easiest way to do this. It'll be a little hard for me to see who's in the classroom, but in the interests of time, I'm just going to share my browser screen with you. Okay, so let's do this. Ishmael is here, Giuseppe, and who's in the middle? I can't see. Ah, Hussam. Okay. Hussam, you are a new face. I don't think I know you. Hello, Hussam.
Yeah, hello, Eric. How are you?
Good. Is this your first time?
Yeah, that's my first time actually.
Ah, okay. Where are you from, Hussam?
Yeah, I am from Syria.
From Syria. Are you in Syria right now?
No, I am outside it. I live now in Saudi Arabia.
You're probably better off outside of Syria.
Yeah, nobody.
I think a lot of people are outside, the lucky ones. Listen, sorry, go ahead. Yeah. So let me just, what we're going to do is I'm going to try to do a quick review of some of the key expressions we've been learning. Give me just a second here if I can share this with you. Hold on. I'm trying to just load this onto my screen. Give me just a second here. Yeah, there we go. Is that it? Yep. Okay, so what I'm going to do then is, I hope I can get this away. No, I can't. All right, I got to download this to my computer because I can't share it the way I want to share it. So give me just a second to download that. And I'm going to put it on screen, and then we'll do the review. The homework I was trying to give you yesterday, we'll do it together just because I'm not 100% sure that I can send it to you today. So we'll just do it together as a little review. Let me just get this open. Okay, yep, okay, I got it, finally. So, I can try to give you the link later, but for now, just follow along on screen. Okay, and you should see How to Talk About Success, homework number 3. If you weren't here, this will be an introduction. Don't worry, you don't need to attend every class. These are more for conversation. So we'll learn some skills, but we'll always revise them, okay? So, in the last class, we began to learn about generalizing and contrasting. By contrasting, I mean using words that basically mean the same as but. We'll call them but words. There's also for words and words and or words and yet words and so words. In other words, all the conjunctions, for and or, but or, yet, so, the basic conjunctions have many synonyms. So today we're working on the synonyms of the word but, and we're going to use that in our class, in the speaking activity. But let's do a little bit of a practice with those words in particular. So contrasting language. In the first page of the homework, which again I'll try to send this to you after class, but I gave you a complete review of the form and the use. All you really need to know, don't worry about the form. Let's focus on the use. Use but to show a contrast between two parts of a sentence. We need more staff, but we can't afford to employ anyone. Well, we could change that with one of the key words, like despite or even though. However, that's not a good one. Everyone uses that. It's too overused. But let's use despite. Despite the fact that we can't afford to employ anyone else, we really need more staff. So it sounds a little bit more like a native speaker to use despite the fact. Or even though we can't afford anyone, we need more staff. We can use even though as a contrast. So that's the first thing you need to know. You can replace but with any of those words. The second thing is the words themselves. Although, even though, despite, however, and there are others, can also be used to show contrast, and usually we put more emphasis on that part of the sentence. So we put it at the beginning. So but joins ideas in the middle, but despite and although will probably move it to the beginning of the sentence to give more emphasis. Like, despite the terrible weather, the business trip to India was a success. Or in spite of terrible weather is another way to say it. Or the business trip to India was a success, however, there was terrible weather. So however and but are not really very emphatic. So that's really what you need to take away from this part, from this explanation, this summary that I gave you. And then I'll put in the homework after class today if everything's working. With that in mind, we're going to try just 2 short exercises. The example is done for you. You have to rewrite the sentence using the words in bracket. First is however. The original sentence, although your last order was late, we are prepared to give you another chance. Replacing that with however, your last order was late, period. However, comma, we are prepared to give you another chance. Okay, so I want you to rewrite the sentence using one of those contrast words in brackets and tell me the punctuation if it's important. Here with however, it's important to know that however starts a new sentence. So I have to say, it was late, period, however, comma. So if the punctuation is significant, please mention the punctuation as you rephrase the sentence. Okay? So, Giuseppe, you start us off. How would you change sentence number 2? Read it, and then read it again with the changes.
Okay. She is our best salesperson. However, she is bad at paperwork. So the change that I suppose is she's our best salesperson, even though she's bad at paperwork.
Okay? And if you want to add more emphasis, you could change the parts of the sentence by putting even though at the beginning.
Okay.
So,
even though she's our best sellers, she's bad at paperwork.
exactly. So, it's a good idea to just keep that in mind. You don't have to do it, but that's probably what we would do. Change the parts of the sentence to put the most important thing, the fact that she's bad at paperwork, first. Okay? All right. So that was good, by the way. Very good. Ishmael. Let's take number 3. This one's a little trickier.
They only have 2 products. It is an extremely successful business.
Okay. And how would he change it?
Despite only having 2 products.
Yeah.
Comma. It's an extremely successful business.
Sounds great. That's it. Despite only having. Sounds good. The key idea here is that formula, despite verb plus ing. Because in other cases, we have a different format. In other words, you can say despite it, following it with a noun or pronoun, or you can use this verb ing form. If you change it to in spite, which is a variation of this, you would say in spite of only having. So there, in spite of is followed directly by the gerund ing. Okay? So what you said is perfect. Very good, Ishmael. That's it. All right. What do you think? Yuki, let's try 4.
They went ahead with the project even though the research was unfavorable. Despite the fact that the research was unfavorable, they went ahead with the project.
Sounds good to me. Despite the fact that the research was unfavorable, they went ahead anyway. Despite the fact that. So this is an alternative to the form that Ishmael just gave us. So without the verb. In other words, as I said, despite can be followed by a noun or pronoun, like it is here, the fact that, or verb and ing, and in spite of will be followed always by the ing form, or 9 times out of 10 by the ing form. So you could use in spite of in this way. In spite of the research being unfavorable, or in spite of unfavorable research, they went ahead with the project. So in spite of has a slightly different form than despite the fact that. Okay, just because you're going to hear them side by side a lot of times. You'll hear people use them interchangeably. That's why I'm pointing out both forms, in spite of and despite. Okay, the next one's a little easier. So, Hussam, you try number 5, and this one is not so challenging. I think you won't have a problem with it.
Yeah, okay. The sentence, the meeting went on and on, but we made some useful decisions. Yeah.
Try it with although.
Yeah, although the meeting went on and on, we made some useful decisions.
Yeah, just that. It's pretty simple. Although the meeting went on and on and on, no one would shut up. So you could do it in a different way. You could put the although in the second part. Could you? Wait. Could you? Although we made some decisions, the meeting went on and on. Oh, yeah, you could. You could.
Yeah, the meeting went on and on, although we made some useful decisions.
You could say that as well. depending on the context, if you add a little information. In other words, oh, you made useful decisions, so the meeting was over quick. You made them quickly. No, 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 the meeting went on and on. Although it went on and on, we did make some useful decisions. Oh, anyway, you could pretty much use it in either part if you had to. It's not that big of a deal. All right, the last one is with however. Except I don't want you to use however, Ahmed. I don't want you to use however because I hate this word. Because
Well,
it's a terrible word that we should never use because it's overused. But is good because but is an essential word of the language. However is something that English students overuse because it's the one they know best. So I want you to say that sentence but use anything except however.
okay. Although he didn't know that the company was for sale, he did have an idea of how much it was worth. Well, we'll use but.
Well,
He
not
didn't.
but. Not but.
He didn't want.
No,
Okay.
no, something better than but.
Even though, despite,
I'd like you to use whereas.
whereas.
That's a
Okay.
good one. Whereas.
Okay. uh, well, I will take although off, and I will put whereas there.
Okay.
Okay. I don't know. Does it work like this or not? Whereas,
Let's hear how it sounds.
well, okay. Whereas he didn't know that the company was for sale, he did have an idea of how much it was worth.
No, it's not exactly
I'm-
the same, is it? It's not exactly
Yeah.
the same.
I'm not sure. That's why.
Yeah, something isn't quite right about that. I wonder why that doesn't work. Apparently, not all but words are equal. Apparently, they don't all mean exactly but, because it doesn't quite sound right. Whereas he didn't know that the company was for sale. Because it doesn't work, I guess, because it's impossible to say whereas he didn't know. It sounds whereas like it should be a list of unknowns, and there's no list here. So it has to be a much more simple contrast. I guess that's the reason. So I tried to use whereas in it, and I failed. Uh-oh. I failed.
What about if you put whereas after the word sell, for example?
Whereas he did have an idea of how much it was worth, he didn't know that the company was for sale. Whereas he did have an idea of how much it was worth, he hadn't known that the company was for sale. I'd have to change it slightly. But it doesn't quite, it's okay, that one works better, but something doesn't quite work with whereas. It just doesn't sound quite right. We've got to use something else. How about in spite of?
In spite of. Okay.
Yeah. This is one that we don't have an example of, but I explained a moment ago. All you have to remember is that after a preposition, we usually follow it with a gerund, the ing form. That's all you need to remember about in spite of.
Okay. In spite of. How to put it in gerund?
Well, find the verb.
The verb is know.
Exactly.
Okay. Not knowing
Right.
that the company was for sale, he did have an idea of how much it was worth.
That's it. So in spite of not knowing, that's
Okay.
it. We have to keep it negative, but we can't use a conjugation like didn't. But that's it. All right, that one works. That one is pretty good. Whereas doesn't work. Because it has to do with alternatives, I suppose. Our second set of short exercises here. The first one is done for you. Although the meeting was a great success, we felt really happy. Uh-oh, something's wrong here. Correct the sentences. Sometimes more than one answer is possible. Although the meeting was a great success, we felt really depressed. That would be one way to fix it, because great success and happy show no contrast. So you have to change one of the words. Or although the meeting was a total disaster, we felt really happy. That would be another way to create a contrast. So Giuseppe, you decide how you want to change sentence 2 to show a contrast.
Okay.
So read it as it is and then tell us how to change it.
However, the seminar was a waste of time. We enjoyed meeting our new colleagues.
Mm-hmm. So it doesn't even make sense at the moment.
Yeah. However, the seminar was so I guess I have to change waste of time with.
Well, there's a lot of things you could do. There's a lot of things you could do.
Okay.
One strategy would be just to substitute however. That could be one way to do it.
But there is no problem in this sentence, Jon-Eric.
There's no problem in the sentence? What do you mean?
I think it is correct.
However, the seminar was a waste of time. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
I got it. Let's see if it works in this way. Even though the seminar was a waste of time, we enjoyed meeting our new colleagues.
Perfect.
Okay.
That's it. It doesn't make sense with however, but it makes sense with even though. Because if I say, however, the seminar was a waste of time, I need to compare and contrast that with something that comes before, and nothing comes before. We don't have anything to compare it to before. Like, for example, we enjoyed going to the conference. However, the seminar was a waste of time. But we did meet our new colleagues, and that was great. I'm saying, however, needs to contrast with something prior information. So one way to solve it is to change it to even though. That's one way. Another way to solve it, Giuseppe, is don't change however, but just change the order of the clauses. Orazione, the clauses. Just change the order of them and keep however. Want to try that one, Giuseppe?
Let's see.
In other words, if you put any information before however, and it contrasts, I think that's what Ishmael was trying to say. There is a contrast here. So all we really need to do is just put the contrast before however, and it should be okay.
The seminar was a waste of time. However, we enjoyed meeting our new colleagues.
That's it. And you have to just highlight the punctuation. The seminar was a waste of time, period. However, comma, we enjoyed meeting our new colleagues, because it's two separate sentences.
Yeah. Okay.
That's it. So those are two ways to correct the sentence. Well, Ishmael, what do you think about number 3?
Yes, but he was miserable. He earned a lot of money. He earned a lot of money, period, but he was miserable.
He earned a lot of money, but he was miserable. Two sentences. Or he was miserable, comma, but he earned a lot of money. So we just moved the but to the middle. So those are two ways to change it.
You can change but.
Yeah, and you can also substitute but for another term. What could you use to substitute but here? What do you think?
Though, even though.
Even though he was miserable, he earned a lot of money. Or you can get rid of even and just use though. But then it has to be a conjunction. He was miserable, though he earned a lot of money. So if we use though, we can put it afterwards. If we use even though, it comes before. So we've just identified, what, 4 ways to change that sentence, 4 different strategies we could use. There you go. Yuki, Same thing for number 4.
Number 4, but he was despite he forgot our notes, he managed to give the presentation.
So think about the formula with despite.
Despite the fact he forgot the notes.
Despite the fact that.
Despite the fact that he forgot our notes, he managed to give the presentation. Despite
are you saying
forgetting.
He or we, Yuki?
Hmm?
He or we?
We.
We.
Sorry.
Okay. Yes.
Despite of our forgetting our notes.
Wait. Despite forgetting.
Sorry. Despite forgetting our notes.
We managed
to give the presentation.
So when you use the gerund, you cut out the subject. We don't need to say we any longer. So if it's the gerund, despite forgetting our notes, if you're using that form. If you use a noun, despite the fact, then you keep all the previous information like the subject. Despite the fact that we forgot our notes. So it's either despite forgetting or despite the fact that we forgot. Which one is better? Despite forgetting is better because it sounds more like a native speaker. You only use the second form if you want to be very, very emphatic because it's a lot of words to say. So despite forgetting our notes is probably the better choice. Okay, there you go. And let's see, let's go back to Hussam for the last one. Number 5, last one.
Yeah. But the office was big. There wasn't enough space for all the disk. Yeah.
This one is actually pretty easy to fix, isn't it? It's not so challenging.
There wasn't. Although the office was big.
Right?
There wasn't enough space for all disks.
That's right. So you could substitute but for a different contrast word, like although, and it would be correct.
Mm.
Can you do anything else? Is there another way to correct this? Ah, there is.
Yeah.
What if we move but to a different position?
Yeah. The office was big. Despite of there wasn't enough space for all disks.
Wait a second. Don't confuse despite with in spite of. They're two separate things. So if you say of, you have to say in spite of. If you don't say of, you have to say despite and the gerund. Okay? So, listen to me. In spite of the office being big. So if I use in spite of, was becomes being. Or if I use despite the office being big. So in that case, it's easier just to use the gerund. There wasn't enough space for all the desks. So there I did it with in spite of and despite. But look what I can do, Sam. I can just move but. I can move it. I could say the office was big, comma, but there wasn't enough space for all the desks. So if I just move it to the normal position for a conjunction, it sounds okay too. So you got two ways to do it. Replace but or move it to its proper position. Move it to the right place for a conjunction. Is that clear?
Yeah.
Yeah? All right. Thank you. Well, here's what we're going to do. Let's keep that information in mind. Now we've practiced a little bit. And we're going to finish the section on contrasting language that we started. I have to jump forward here. Let's see, how did we do this? We looked at yesterday we just analyzed this letter. We found the contrasting words. And what we're going to do is, wait a second here. I think we're not going to do that. I think we're going to do this. Yes. Let me just see what we're going to do here. Yeah, let's go back here to 5. Okay. Your company is based in France and has regular dealings with UK customers. Your company is proposing a change of working hours from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. to 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. So you're going to shift your hours back by 1 hour to give people a later start. Student B. So we have to break the class up into two groups. So group B, point out the negative aspects, and group A, student A, try to persuade your partner that that's not a good idea. I'm sorry, that is a good idea. Let's see if I'm missing something here, because I think I am. No, that's it. Okay, I don't know. It looks like I thought I was missing something, but maybe I'm okay. And let me just jump ahead to make sure I didn't. No, okay, we're okay. We're good. We're good. Okay, so let's try it like this. Let's see if we can break you up into two groups. So Ahmed and Giuseppe and me. I think we're going to be student. I think we're going to be student B. We're going to be group B. So that means that. See, there's something missing here. I'm sorry, because I'm not sure who's who. Your company is based in France. Your company is dealing with the aspect. My only problem here is that I'm not sure who is B and who's A, because it's the material itself which is not clear. So I'm not sure who's doing the changing. I think that we both work for the same company. I guess yes. That must be it. So I think we're having.
Be negative.
I got that, but I wasn't sure if we were, because it's in two countries, so I wasn't sure if we had two groups of the company. But I guess we don't. We all work for the same company. Okay. So me, Ahmed, and Giuseppe, we're going to be pointing out the negative aspects. We're not happy with the change. Because remember, the UK is on it's a 1 hour difference between France. That means that Hussam, Ishmael, and Yuki, you're going to try to persuade us that this is a good idea by listening to our negative criticism and trying to convince us of the positive. In order to do that, you have to use as many of those key expressions for contrasting language as you can. All right, so we've got 3 each, so we're gonna just go down the list and try to do one. Let me see if I can start us off. Mine is gonna be finish work later. That's a negative. So I would say to group B, Giuseppe, Ishmael, and Hussam, I would say to you, well, in this meeting, as you know, we're gonna be discussing changing the working hours by shifting them back 1 hour later, because that would put us at the same schedule, GMT +1, as France. But I'm not sure that's a good idea, because even though we will be on the same time, what's the word I'm looking for? The same hour as France, we're going to certainly finish work later, which could lead to a lot of problems. People who are commuters, for example, they're going to be arriving later, and that hour at that time of day could make a huge difference, because you're already tired. So getting home early is one of the things that helps motivate the staff. Okay? What do you think about that idea, Ishmael? I'd like you to respond to that, and then you can point out a positive. What do you think about that, Ishmael?
I understand you in a while, but we spent lots of hours in the morning rush hour.
Say that last part again. I didn't quite catch that.
We spent lots of time in the morning rush hour.
We will save lots of time in the morning rush hour. Is that right?
We spend too much time in the heavy traffic.
Oh, I see. We spend too much time in the morning rush hour. So you think by moving the schedule up an hour, we're
Yes,
actually going to help our situation in the morning, though we will arrive late.
we left. We are going to leave the house more late than before because
We'll leave home. We'll leave home
we leave home more later than before because we are going to not spend too much time
in rush hour, in
in rush
traffic.
hour or in heavy traffic.
Okay, that's great. Perfect. But Ishmael, can you contrast that? What's your contrast? In other words, you need to compare and contrast that to something happening now or something happening or something that we might object to.
Even though
Right. That's it.
even though we are going to finish work later,
Good. So even though we're going to finish work later, we will avoid what?
We will avoid to spend too much time in the rush hour.
That's it. So even though we're going to finish work later, we will certainly avoid the morning rush hour. So that's quite an advantage. All right, very good. Giuseppe, I would like you to comment on Ishmael's suggestion, but I'd like you also to point out another negative criticism of this plan that we might want to keep in mind.
Okay. If you hear some background, I will close the window.
Okay. Right now I don't hear anything.
Okay.
Except the sounds of Sicily. People making pizza in the street. I don't know what they do in Sicily.
Well, we do everything as in the other country.
Oh. The sound of grapes being crushed by bare Sicilian feet. I don't know. Children running naked in the street. The sound of, what's the volcano out there?
Etna.
Etna, the sound of Mount Etna exploding in the background. Yes.
No.
all I hear is cars right now. Go ahead, Giuseppe.
Okay.
Remember, try to use contrast words when you comment on Ishmael's suggestion, or talking about your criticism.
Okay. Despite of moving to another shift,
Despite moving to another shift.
Despite moving,
There's no of and despite. No of and despite.
Despite
Remember,
moving.
In spite of or despite plus ing. Two possibilities. In spite of moving or despite moving.
Despite moving to a new shift or schedule.
Okay.
I will suggest to keep this shift, this presently shift, because even though so despite the moving to the next shift okay,
so for example, if you say even though, what is it you're comparing?
I was saying though.
Or though, either way, yeah.
Though is a good idea to avoid the morning rush hour, but
right.
You have a shorter evenings if you choose to move on to the next to the new shift.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Let's repeat that. Though it's a good idea to avoid the morning rush hour, though it's a good idea, we will end up with shorter evenings. Yeah. Though it's a good idea to avoid rush hour, we will end up with shorter evenings, which may make our employees a little bit unhappy because they need time off. That's the idea, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes, that's it. Fantastic. Yuki, I'd like you to comment on Giuseppe's suggestion, and you can then make a suggestion of your own in the positive column.
I'm presently surprised by the opinion of Giuseppe.
Oh,
but I think the big I think there are pros and cons of shifting our working hour up 1 hour.
Up 1 hour.
Up
Up 1
1 hour. Despite of
wait. Not despite of, just despite plus ing. Remember,
I'm
you
positive
say of,
negative. I'm positive.
You're in positive.
You're
in positive.
Okay.
Yeah. So
despite shorter evenings.
Okay, or that. Despite having shorter evenings.
Despite having shorter evenings. we can have an extra hour in bed in the morning.
That's true. Despite having shorter evenings, we're going to have longer mornings. So what could be bad?
Big advantage for us, especially for me.
Especially for Yuki. Okay, I agree. Ahmed, what do you think about that? Despite having shorter evenings, we'll have an extra hour in the morning, so people will come to work more refreshed. What do you think about that? You can offer another negative if you disagree.
Yes, you are right, Yuki. Extra hour in bed in the morning, but different hours to other family members.
What do you mean by that?
That could lead to non-stop problems.
Oh my God! Such as? What problems? Yeah. What do you think that could lead to?
Well,
because I don't really understand what you mean by different hours to other family members. I'm not sure what you mean by that.
Yeah, my wife will not be able to spend her time with me in the evening. My children will get sick because of that.
Oh no!
They might. Yeah.
Your whole family will fall apart. I can't believe it. All because we shifted work 1 hour. So you mean you'll be on a different schedule than the rest of your family?
Yeah, that's a problem.
Oh, I see. I see what you mean. All right. Hussam, I'd like you to comment on Ahmed's idea, but you could counter that with a positive in the second column if you like. Make sure you use a contrast connector, like although, even though, despite, in spite of, or any of the words we've used before.
Yeah. Although different hours to other family may cause problems.
Right.
I think finishing work later is the only problem.
It's the only problem or the only solution? You think it's a problem or you think it's a good idea?
Yeah, because it's here they write it's negative, so it's bad idea. That's the situation, you know.
Okay, but you can give your own opinion too.
Yeah.
Do you think that we should change our schedule just to handle our customers in the UK, or should the customers just deal with the fact that we're in a different country? I have to change my schedule because most of my students are 1 hour earlier than me. So that's hard to get up an hour earlier than them and be awake, especially if it's early in the morning. So I find it a little hard, but I have to do it because they're my customers. So do you agree?
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, customer always right.
Customer is always right. although the customer is always right,
No, the customer always right.
although the customer is always right, we don't have to we don't have to have our staff exhausted just because we're trying to please our customers, though. Maybe we could find an alternative. What do you think? Does anyone have a suggestion? Do we have a compromise of what we could do so that our staff doesn't have to get up that early? I like the 10 a.m. idea. I don't like the 6 p.m. leaving time, though. Any other suggestions? They've got to work a 40-hour week.
Yeah, that's could happen. We could also make 4 hours in Saturday, for example.
Ah, there you go. So we could have a later start time. So even though most companies work 9 to 5, 5 days a week, we could be a trendsetter, have shorter work days, but include a Saturday or alternative Saturdays. Maybe not every Saturday, maybe 2 Saturdays a month. That way people have shorter work days, but they won't have less hours. What do you think about that idea? That's a good idea, don't you think?
Yeah, I agree with you. It's
Ishmael, if you had to comment on Hussam's idea, what would you say using contrasting language? Do you like his suggestion? Uh-oh.
Could you repeat again?
Sure. Hussam was saying we could have a shorter work, even though most companies have a 9 to 5 workday, Monday to Friday. We could have a 6-day-a-week workday with shorter hours throughout the day. That way we can be on the same schedule as the UK customers, but our employees could go home at the regular time. So in other words, we extend it to Saturday, or maybe every other Saturday. What do you think about that?
For me, it is a not good idea, actually.
Okay, I want you to contrast that with a good idea. Using even though or despite or any of those contrast words. What do you think, Ishmael? You don't have to contrast it with only a good idea. You can contrast it with, for example, I don't want to give you the answers though, but let me give you an example. Fine. Even though Hussam's suggestion makes sense, I disagree because. So you could set it up like that. As long as you're contrasting, it doesn't matter. So what's your response? Why is it a bad idea? Hello, Ishmael?
Hello?
Hello?
I have no idea, actually.
Oh, but I thought you said it was not a good solution for you.
Yes, because I don't like to work at Saturday.
Okay. So even though Hussam's suggestion makes sense, I think people will be less motivated if they have to give up their weekends.
Yes.
It's better to have them have a fuller schedule during the week so they have much more free time on the weekends. Okay, that makes sense. That's a valid point of view. My key purpose here was to really force you all to use contrasting language in a variety of ways. That was my main idea here. There's another situation here. Let me just see here. All right. What I'd like you to do is this. I'm going to give you, if Verbling has fixed the problem, I'm going to send you that homework that we did in the beginning. If you'd like to try it again as extra practice, but I'm going to include this second activity. It's exactly the same as the first one, but I'll give you the chance to try it as a short writing. So you're going to use contrasting language in an email to give your opinion about this situation. Your company is proposing the change of a logo. You have to point out, you're student A, you have to point out the negative aspects and try to persuade your partner that having a new logo is not a good idea. Or you can choose student B and propose that it is a good idea. You choose which student you're going to be. You try it as a writing and you send it to me through the Verbling chat window, through the Verbling message system, and I will correct it and send it back. It takes me a long time to do corrections, but I will get to it eventually. If not by tomorrow, then soon. And I'll also give you the other exercises we did in the beginning. Okay? What we're going to do next, we're stopping, we have to stop now, but what we're going to do next is to take everything we've done so far, put it together into one giant class where we get to use it in a realistic situation. So we call that the case study. So we're going to finish our How to Talk About Success, which is also the end of the intermediate level. So we're going to be moving up to upper intermediate. That's level B2 in the European system. We're going to finish that with a big case study where we look at and judge the success of a project in a business scenario, trying to use everything we've done so far. Language for success and failure, contrasting language, and generalizing in a meeting, generalizing to a point. Okay? I'll send that to you. Try the writing if you have time. I'll correct it and send it back. And tomorrow at the same hour, tomorrow and Thursday, we'll be doing our case study where we'll be getting a little bit of background and then having a meeting where we discuss the success or failure of a project. Okay? So we'll take it from there tomorrow. Any questions or comments, just send me a message in the Verbling chat window, and that's it. Are we cool?
We are.
Are we cool? We're cool.
We are. Thank
All
you.
right. So see you tomorrow at 10 GMT for speaking skills and 11 GMT for the case study of how to talk about success. Bye for now, everyone. See you soon.
Yeah, bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
See you guys. Bye-bye.